The Talkshop.
A very good evening to you and welcome to the Talkshop on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. I am Masechaba Mtolo. Tonight our mover and shaker is an entrepreneur extraordinaire. He's a self-taught IT guru and he is committed to working with his community to ensure that everybody moves up. We'll be talking to Teboho Mafodi, entrepreneur, motivational speaker and owner of digital advertising company TM Group. Let's get right into it. Getting up close with our mover and shaker, Teboho Mafodi. He's an entrepreneur who lives by the motto, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time, every time, and all the time. And he believes always go big or go home. He's a self-taught IT guru, was awarded the opportunity to study at the Tshwane University of Technology in 2005 through the Thabo Mbeki Education Initiative after being recognized by the Presidential National Commission. He's a motivational speaker and owner of TM Group. He is entrepreneur, motivational speaker and owner of digital advertising company TM Group, and he will tell us more about TM Group because it is not just the digital advertising company that falls under this stable. A very, very warm welcome to you, Ndade Mafodi, and thank you so much for joining us. Welcome onto the Talkshop.
No, thank you for having us, Masechaba. It's a pleasure being here.
Tell us about TM Group. I've got it listed here as a digital advertising company, but it's actually a conglomerate of companies.
Yes.
It's like a holding company.
No, in fact, what we did, we started off as a digital advertising agency, mainly playing in the online digital space. And as obviously the business grew, I mean, one thing that I learned from a wise man is that you need to be in a position to diversify as you grow, so that you get your business more sustainable. Because the problem is that us black business, we don't get an opportunity to actually get our business sustainable. Today you are up, tomorrow you are down, and because you're practically looking at tenders. So we thought, let's diversify the business as opportunities presented themselves as well, and we definitely make the best out of that.
A lot has been said about tenderpreneurs, Teboho. Tenderpreneurs are not taking the country forward. Tenderpreneurs are just looking at getting government contracts, and most of them are shady deals. What are your views on this? I mean, how do we ensure that those that get the tenders continue to grow their businesses and look for opportunities elsewhere like you have?
I mean, you know what? I used to, for instance, I remember once upon a time I couldn't even spell tender because I practically made a name within the private sector, and I think a person that changed my perception of tenderism, it's Mr. Richard Kubete, for instance, because he brought this perception that tendering has always been there. You'll see some of these big companies, for instance, within the construction place. The top 5 companies that, for instance, did the corruption or whatsoever, those companies were actually made by tenders. There's a lot of companies and there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I could make mention of. They actually got their big break through the tender processes, because obviously government has been the major, for instance, service supplier in terms of quantity and in terms of amounts, for instance. And that changed my entire perception. And I thought to myself, for instance, for tendering for me, I'll take it as an opportunity of a cash cow to actually fund what I actually love, or fund what I can actually, make life out of. Because certain things, for instance, within private sector, you can only make so much unless if ever you are the type of entrepreneur that actually offer a very unique service. Because within private sector, it's mainly based on skills, how good are you, and mainly based on your reputation. And reality is it's still very white dominant. So for you to actually get a project, you'd be getting smaller than a project living from hand to mouth, and it's not good.
We're talking to a mover and shaker. He is entrepreneur Teboho Mafodi. He's a motivational speaker and he's owner of digital advertising company TM Group. We will be taking your calls later on 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207, or you can SMS us on 34701. SMS number is 34701 and SMSs are charged at R2.
The Talkshop.
This is the Talk Shop on SAFM 104 to 107, South Africa's news and information leader. I am Masechaba Mtolo. Our mover and shaker tonight is entrepreneur Teboho Mafodi, self-taught IT guru and motivational speaker. He is the owner of digital advertising company TM Group. We've been talking about tenderpreneurism and how it compares to when you say that your mind was changed by Ntate Kumete. What was your attitude towards tenderpreneurs? Because like you say, your focus was on the private sector. So you clearly must have had some thoughts around
I hated tenderpreneurs because you know what I mean, coming from the township, for instance, you see the tenderpreneurs, they get a project, first thing they do, they buy a car, they get a project, first thing they do, they do all these things, and then they forget how they need to work.
And deliver.
Yes, you put saying that I'm reminded of a friend of mine that says she's very black, and she would say, you know what, I hate black people because the one stupid black person makes all of us seem dumb, So you could imagine that tenderpreneurs, I felt, because even to this day, they still give some of us a bad name, for instance, because that's why others, the minute, for instance, that opportunity for them to tender closes down, their business is shut down.
But you also highlighted the fact, Teboho, that it is not easy to get those contracts from the private sector. Those businesses have their own criteria. They have companies that they've been working with for a long time. And honestly speaking, how willing are they to give a young entrepreneur like yourself when you started the chance?
You know what? That is so true. It's quite difficult to penetrate. But one thing with me, what I always say to whenever I speak to people is that it's funny how big FMCG companies are willing to do samples for you to test their product. But there comes you're not willing to sample your work for people to see what you're able to do. So some of the things that I did is that I actually went to clients and requested to do stuff for them absolutely free, just for them to actually see the capability that I have. I'd always, I think, give respect to a company called Sarakolo Health. Dr. Tsip, she's the lady that gave me my first big break. To actually be in a position to actually be coming to Sandton, to actually be doing stuff within his office, and it's something that slowly but surely I started building a client base. I started building relations, and more than anything, recommendation. I would even ask, who can you recommend me to? Some of the people should pick up the phone and actually personally call them to say, I've got this guy that does this for me. He's so good. Do you want to try him out? And it's slowly but surely you built a reputation around that, and it actually paid off.
So it's hard work that gets you to the top.
It's hard work.
If you want to build a business, you've got to be willing to sweat and put in the time, sometimes free of charge.
Yeah, sometimes free of charge.
Free of charge.
It's persistence, Masechaba. You have to be persistent. And reality is, I'll make an example. Right now, there's certain multinational companies. It doesn't matter how hard you try, you'll never go and knock in. But you can go there and actually request to do something for them. People love freebies as much as they might be a multinational company, and that give you that opportunity. And when you walk out of there, what are you walking out with? You're walking out with a reference, and you're walking out with a client. Tomorrow they cannot deny and say, no, he didn't do this for us, because you did. So automatically that makes them your client. You're able to take that and actually sell it to somebody else. You actually did that for them, so it means you're good at what you do. So they actually gave you an opportunity.
So your client list looks impressive.
It does.
Because you did deliver for them.
It did.
Yeah. No, it's all about hard work. And you're no stranger to hard work. I understand that you worked 2 jobs to support your family while studying to finish your matric.
Yeah, Masechaba, I grew up very disadvantaged, I must say, and for me to actually be even teaching myself computers, it was not something that that I loved and I just really wanted to do. But my situation pushed me to actually try and find solutions or situations that could actually change background. Because for instance, I wouldn't even have gone to my mother or my grandfather and said, no, Papa, I want a computer or something. I think I would have got to the most slap, and Gaspina, and I had to really make something out of nothing. And part of that, I mean, it came with me having interest in computers. And I mean, at some point, I always say to people, I'll never forget that I used to go to school with shoes that had holes underneath, and I'd put a cardboard or a kiskahlajo going to school. And you know what, it would be unfortunate when it was raining like it's raining now. By the time I get to class, the minute obviously I step on top of that water, what happened to that cardboard? It turns into paper.
It vanishes.
Yes, and I'd be freezing, you know, and as a child, you don't understand those things, you know, but one thing that I always say, I knew I had a dream, and I knew that I'm destined to be successful. I didn't know how, I didn't know when. And
what fueled this dream, Teboho? I mean, a lot of your peers, in the circumstances that you're talking about, in the environment that you come from, you know, Ekurhuleni, we know that there are not as many opportunities as one would like to think, especially today that they are. So what was it that had you motivated and believing that you're going to make it, and not, you know, standing on the corner with the other majans and thinking those walking to school are mukhus and thinking that they're more privileged and thinking that they're wasting their time?
You know what, let me start by saying, in life you need to be in an uncomfortable situation for you to want to change it. The problem with us is that we start living in poverty, and we start embracing poverty. And the next thing, you go to church, you find pastors preaching as if when you are broke, when you are in poverty, you are actually blessed. People that are rich, they actually cursed. And you know, it's something that we grow in. And for me, I think more than anything, the circumstances that forced me to go to school like that, I think, you know, it really provoked me. And I remember at some point, I mean, when you're driving into Whiteville, there's these informal settlement, Barki Lakeview. My mother, we actually, you know, and there was no electricity, there was no infrastructure. We had to use one public toilet, one public tap to actually be in a position to. And as a young man, those things I didn't understand. And I think seeing this from other people or seeing this on TV, I said to myself, this is a life that I have to live. This is a life that I need to make for myself. And obviously, unfortunately, I didn't have a father that was going to be there and encourage me or pat me at the back and say, no, this is the direction that you need to take. And that's where the mistake as well comes in, because the minute as well you start being successful, no one taught you money from home. You start making these mistakes. You know what, how fitla, you know, they say you need to buy expensive bottles, girls throw themselves, you throw yourself as well. You are not taught. So
I want to talk about who then took you in hand. Who encouraged you? Who urged you to believe that your dream could be a reality? We're talking to entrepreneur Teboho Mafodi, who is a motivational speaker, owner of digital advertising company TM Group. And we'll be talking about the first annual game-changing entrepreneurs event that's taking place at the end of November. As I said earlier on, he wants others to rise with him. He wants to inculcate a sense of entrepreneurship in South Africans who believe that this is the end of the road for them. And he says it was not the end of the road for him, so it cannot be the end of the road for others. We're taking your calls 0891 104 207 or SMS us on 34701. SMS number is 34701 and SMSs are charged at R2. Get an SMS came in that says, it's great to hear Mr. Mafodi on your show. He is one inspirational man. I hope many South Africans will learn a lot from him today.
The Talk Shop.
This is the Talk Shop on SAFM 104 to 107. I am Masechaba Mtolo in conversation with our mover and shaker entrepreneur Teboho Mafodi, taking your calls on 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207, or SMS us on 34701. SMS number is 34701 and SMSs are charged at R2. I want to talk about dealing with success a little bit later on and talk about how important it is to have someone who then shows you the road when this is something that you're not used to. But how did you then get into the IT? I know that you said that it was something that you were interested in, but it's very hard to be interested in something that you have no access to. And you ended up actually teaching your community IT skills.
Yeah. You know, Masechaba, for instance, what happened is that being in high school, I was fortunate enough to be in SRC, most of my high schools at Etwato High. And what I always say to people...
But Tebo, you are in high school, you're working two jobs to make sure that you help your family out, and you're involved in student development as well.
I was. I mean, for instance, if my uncles or my mother would phone, they'd tell you this man was always on the road. You know, but I mean, for instance, in terms of working now, it's something that I started working late high school. Because I mean, beginning or during high school, what I used to do, for instance, I used to be selling cakes. I used to go to school with one plastic, not a bag, a plastic yadibuka, it's a school, and another plastic yadikuku, you know, that I'm going to sell at school. And afterwards, you know what, I would after school I'd quickly go run and to actually buy more for the following day. So now, you know how teachers, they would actually keep you. I remember there's a teacher, he used to actually keep you at break time for you when you need to be going to lunch. And I'd actually get angry because by the time I come out, 11:15, kids have already all bought lunch. So now what I did, I started becoming smarter. I requested, because my grandfather was very entrepreneurial. We used to sell cold drinks and cigarettes at home.
Aha, yes. So that's where it came from.
Yes, that's where it came from. So what I did, I asked for him. I loaned some money from him to actually go buy more cakes. You know, he gave me, then I bought. Now I would go to school with 2 or 3 plastic additionally now for cakes. I got other kids that were like-minded, from similar backgrounds, and I would give them cakes to actually go sell in every corner, so that afterwards they're able to have money to buy lunch as well and whatsoever. So in case now I get delayed, so I know no business is continuing out there. Yeah.
The franchisees are keeping the business going.
It's funny how today it's called franchising, and we did this thing in the township. So it got so bad that now other kids that were privileged, now everyone, you know how black people are, we all now wanted to start selling cakes, selling better things than myself and whatsoever. And the school became dirty. And now the principal said, you know what, you're stopping this business. You're not continuing with this, you know, and that's how my business was closed down. And I remember I wanted to buy a car, you know, in old Beetle, you know, back in the days. So, you know, being in high school, they do your Mr. and Mrs. Etwa, you Mr. and Mrs. FAs. So being in SRS, I had to go now get a DJ that can actually be handling the function. So we got to this guy. This guy was playing using a computer. So they recommended him. I mean, that was the first time seeing a computer so close, besides at the till, going to buy something, you know. And this guy, so I asked him, so my man, what are you going to be playing with? I'm going to be playing with my computer. No, can you show me? Then he went and he showed me. Then I was very fascinated by that. And this guy saw what I'm very fascinated. So now what he did, he said, no, you think I can play this alone? No, I can also play music videos. Then I can hear the music video. You should have seen it. I was watching a movie. Yeah. And I think what blew me away, what I always say, that's what in training, that's one scenario that changed my life for good. He played a TV, on his PC, you know, and I was blown away. What I ended up doing, Kinkile Cheleta SRC, I bought the cold drink, and we sat. And I had to become friends with this guy. He was staying about 2 streets away from my house. So, and now what I started doing, I started marketing myself. I fix computers, I type the essays and assignments. I'll tell you now.
After he taught you.
This is a secret my uncle doesn't know. I used to blow people's computer boxes at home, and electricity, and
so, why guess a tree? Why a tree? They don't know.
They don't know it's me in my bedroom. And in the middle of the night, I would be taking this computer, crossing the street to this guy. And one thing I'd always be grateful to this man is that, for instance, he wouldn't even necessarily touch them himself. He would teach me, okay, no, do this, connect this. Why is it doing this? And he would night cut, you know. And I think that's the man that actually gave me the skills, and obviously for me it was not sufficient. I ended up now going to the local library, getting books, and eventually fixing library computers, and even actually owning my very first computer. It was like, wow, you know.
Wow. Teboho Mafodi. He's a mover and shaker. He's an entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker, and he's the owner of digital advertising company TM Group. Triple S and Vryheid, I'm taking your call right after this.
The Talk Shop.
This is the Talk Shop on SAFM 104 to 107. I am Masechaba Mtolo in conversation with our mover and shaker entrepreneur Teboho Mafodi. Good evening to you, Triple S and Vryheid, and welcome onto the Talk Shop.
How are you, my sister?
Hello, Ntate Kitonga.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good on you, my brother.
You know, there is no vocabulary that can define and explain the importance of hard work. There are few things on earth that are guaranteed, but success is guaranteed when you precede it with hard work. Our people today want only to work smart, but you only work smart after you have done a lot of hard work for a long time. So I congratulate Teboho for in his early age for discovering and acknowledging the importance of success, of hard work. So hard work is irreplaceable, is indispensable. You cannot replace hard work for anything. Let the youth of today please start to work hard rather than doing all these other things. Thank you very much, Masechaba, and my friend Teboho there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Papa.
Thank you, Triple S in Vryheid. Yeah, hard work will get you where you're looking to go. We talk about working smart, but it is true. As he says, you lay the foundation of working smart with hard work first. So here you are now fixing computers. How then do you start teaching others?
For instance, now what happened is that the late Mama Adelaide Tambo, what happened is that with social development, they wanted to be developing development centers within the township, so that they could actually increase the chances of people getting employment. So now what we did is that there's guys, for instance, from this high school that I was in, and Abalko SRC previously, these are the guys that were always devoted in developing the community, Floyd, and there's a guy called Vusi that actually decided, guys, let's come together and start a development center. And we approached Mama Adelaide because that's what she wanted to do, and she requested that we actually call it by her name. So it was actually called the Adelaide Tambo Development Center. So what we did there, we tried to get sponsorship. Social development gave us money to actually buy computers to actually train people. So now the interesting part is that now came employment. Now we need to be employing people. Obviously, now was just a mere guy that was there, and CVs came in, people with computer engineering and blah 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 blah, And I remember Mama Adelaide said, we need to give these people to the test. Let's give them classes and let them train people, and let's see, And I said, no, guys, Lena, I think I can do this. I mean, I'm good at it. I'm the one anyway that built these computers. So, and we're both giving classes with this other lady. So he was given the morning class, I was given the afternoon class, and she got in and she taught. Then later I was the one that got in and I taught. The following day I was teaching the class that she taught yesterday, and she was teaching the class that I taught, so that the student become the one that make the decision. So I got into his class. So what did you learn yesterday? They said, no, we learned nothing. You're starting from scratch. And I think that's where my interaction or my facilitation of people started, because I actually loved doing that. And you know what, by the end of the assessment, both classes, they actually voted me to be their teacher,
Wow.
And because for me, I said to guys, it's pointless for me to teach you MS Word, MS Excel, where you don't even know how to put together this very same thing that you're using. Once it breaks, then what? Then I actually started them from then. I think it was their old Makokos and your old, Babas. And for instance, they were very fascinated by such. And I think, their love for me, I still to this day have some of the letters that they wrote for me as to how much I've changed and transformed their lives. I mean, sometimes what I would even say when starting classes, that guys, we're not talking about computers today, we're talking about oneself, as to how can you change the situation, what can you do. But I would try by all means to actually empower them before I actually start teaching them. So by the time I teach them, they're already motivated to actually go to another level.
And this is what brought the attention of the Presidential National Commission to you.
That's what brought the attention. And you know what, I mean, I always say to people, you need to be so good that it becomes hard for them to resist you. I mean, the news went out very fast, and in no time, I mean, the Presidential National Commission came and said, no, the president wants to meet me, and they hear that there's this self-taught IT guru here who's making a difference within the community. They actually want me to send me to school to actually go do information communications technology. And you know what? I took the opportunity with both hands, and I never thought I'd actually be in varsity, but here was I walking to varsity, going to school. It was quite priceless.
From the shoes that had to be shored up with cardboard boxes.
Yes.
And the cakes that were sold during break.
Yes.
By franchisees.
Nje.
To walking into TUT.
Yeah.
To go study IT.
Yes.
Wow.
It was humbling. No? It was a very humbling, Masechaba. And you know what? We did that, gone back to the community, because we actually trained for us to go back to the community and actually continue making a difference. And it got to a point that, you know what, the interesting one is that I felt that now I need more of a challenge. And even my student encouraged me, because they were getting jobs and earning more than what I was earning there. You know, and now they were saying, no, man, you need to do something.
Absolutely.
You know, and now these things were better, because now at least I was driving my smaller Nyana Uno 1.1, and you know, I always loved dressing up, because I didn't have that privilege. And the interesting thing, I went to this other company, I don't want to mention it, it's a big logistic company in Sando. When I go to the security guy says, do you have an appointment? I asked the security guy, what do you mean I've got an appointment? I'm the new manager here. The guy opened the door. And mainly because I loved the building from the outside. And when I got in by the reception, so the lady stood up angry that the security didn't phone and say, there's someone, you know.
Coming in.
And I actually apologized. No, sorry, ma'am. I'm the one that actually told him. Why would you do that? No, I said, no, ma'am. I'm Teboho Mafodi. I came to see what opportunities can one explore within this company. I was there at the right time. You know, they were actually looking for a warehouse manager. Wow. I couldn't even spell logistics. They said, do you know logistics? I said, And
I'll look it up on the internet.
Exactly. You know, and the guy, you know what, they called the manager. The manager said, we interviewed me on the spot, and the guy liked me and said, you know what, but for me to employ you, you need to start tonight and train you, because I'm leaving month end. And you know what, it was something else. So now during the day I'd go teach people computers, at night I'd be going to work.
Working night shift.
You know. And I mean, the client at the time, it was the Real Beverage Company. So we're supplying all these for instance, retail stores with juice. And you know what, so it was, and I had now a plan to work, and I know 2 a.m. I'm going to sleep, and in the morning it was, but you know what, at the time I thought it was the 8, but I didn't know you can actually work 2 jobs to remain broke. You know, and I was very much broke, and I thought I was living because I could afford to pay my car, could afford to do this and that and that and that. Where I realized the value, now the bigger company of the company that I was working for actually called me for an interview. They wanted a shift manager, and when I got, even the security guy, when I got to the gate and said, "Baz, this one is our new boss." So he's the one who was saying that. When I got there, I made sure, you know what, I remember my brother. I've got a brother, Teboho, who used to say to me, don't be yourself, be what the company expects you to be. I got there and I became exactly that, you know. And now came when now we need to discuss money, to say, my man, so how much do we pay you? So I knew, okay, from my day job, I'm getting about 3.5 here. I'm getting about 4,000. So I'm almost on 8,000. Here was I confidently saying, I'll take about 9,005. And these guys were shocked. They all closed their books. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next time. We'll come back to you. And I asked, what's wrong? You know, then this other lady says, this is a shift manager position. So being a shift manager, it means you're going to be dealing with stress. Somebody will be calling you 11th hour to say, I'm not coming. You need to phone someone else and convince them to come to work. You know, and sometimes even your employees would be deciding not to work. You need to be convincing them for them to actually. It means production relies on you. If there's no you, there's no production. The least you could have done is to Google and check the industry market as to how much for instance, shift managers get. The minimal that we're supposed to give you here, it's 25,000, and probably negotiate for furthermore. And when you only want 9,005,
that means you're undervaluing yourself.
Exactly.
So what kind of service are you going to provide us?
And I didn't get the job. I didn't get. I remember I left it very devastated.
I want to talk about the entrepreneurial journey. Let me just quickly look at SMSs that are coming in. Here's one from Unmhla Nombembe in Mkanduli, who says, I'm glad to hear a guy who really wants to work to make a change in his life than just seeing tenders as an easy way to get rich while staying lazy. Keep it up, Skoko. That's from Umhla Nombembe in Mkanduli. And another SMS says, I heard Teboho speak at a seminar earlier this year, and since then I've changed my attitude towards business. He motivated me to work even harder and be passionate about what I do. It's not all about money. Thank you, Teboho. I hope you will touch more lives with your story. That's coming in from Mpumiko, Pretoria. So SMS is coming in 0891 104 207 if you want to talk to us on air, or SMS us like Umpumi and others have done on 34701. 34701 is our SMS number, and SMSs are charged R2. Tell me about the entrepreneurial journey.
Masechaba, as I was busy doing this all hustling, one thing though, obviously I had built my name around IT. So I'd have odd clients that would call me, come fix my computer. I have some clients who would call me, I want to buy a computer, you know. I mean, I think after that job, as I was saying, I left it devastated. I made a decision there and there that, you know what, I'm going to start a business. And I got a friend of mine, we started a business called TNT IT Solutions, and we started trying to get or work into the IT space. But now, unfortunately, I was working alone, but when we need to go with Ro, I need to go with him. You know, and what I always say is that, you know what, when you keep on doing what you do, God automatically sends the right people along your direction. And along the way, I met a guy called Zibusiso Mkhwanazi, you probably know him. From Sprayed View, and yes, the IT guru himself, you know, and guess how I met Zibusiso? I went to a client, obviously now I've been busy getting under people's tables, and this client says, no, we want a website. Do you know how to develop a site? I said, a website? Yes. No, I know how to develop a website. I couldn't even, you know. I refused to say I don't know. One thing that I always try to do is to go out of my way to make sure that I find out how it's done. You know, and 2 years earlier, I had listened to Zibusiso on an interview, and I actually took their numbers. I phoned them and told them that I've got a client. We went with him to actually go pitch. And Zibusiso at the time, no, you know, and one series, so he'd be surround sound, you know, and for instance, when he's on the phone, and the minute he hangs up, I'd ask him, what is hosting? What is this? What is this? We went to the pitch, then came back. You know, I think the guy respected me, and he cancelled his meeting, wanted to sit with me. He asked me, what is it that you want? I said, I want to be a millionaire by the age of 35. He says, why do you want to be a millionaire then when you can be a millionaire now? Coming from the township, it's a new thing, you know, and he told me a story. He made his million at 21, blah, 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 blah. And I think I was blown away, you know, and he said to me, before I could teach you business, I need to teach you how to have a spiritual life. Because besides, behind every businessman, I mean, for instance, there's something that drives the man. And you'd find other people, obviously, when now Roberts, they're doing all these things. You need to have something that would drive you and push you as well. And you know what? I actually left work to actually work with him. You know, I remember I used to drive him to meetings. You know, I'm driving a Beamer, and you know, eventually being
you're learning.
Yes, and I was learning, and to eventually being his receptionist. You know, and I mean, about 3 to 4 months later, I was employing my own, for instance, receptionist. I was now a project manager in his company. You know, and things started unfolding, and I started learning. You know, the digital industry, and. For instance, because one thing that he said, and I think that changed my life, he said, would you walk in at the bank and say you want to render a service? I said, yeah, I can. But I need to work with, you know, a particular, I mentioned a company name. And he said, you see, you're working under somebody's shadow. You're not working in your own shadow. You know, this is a digital industry, still in IT, but it's a different space, a different ballgame, and it's still white dominant. And you know what? He was penetrating that as a black man, as a black man. And you know what? He taught me that, and eventually, I think, you know what? We started penetrating the industry as black brothers, and doing it ourselves, getting multinational clients to actually be the clients, you know, and things started unfolding, and now you start making money. You know, and as well, you know, newspapers start writing Mzansi's young top entrepreneur, you know, and eventually one start making his million at 23, and you know what, you go back to the township, you the man, you know, and the people by Iponza.
But what does that do to you? I mean, I know that, as you're saying, Sibusiso spoke about the need to be spiritually grounded, the need to get your sustenance from somewhere. But when you are 25, you've got your first million. What does that do to you in your mind? I mean, what are you thinking? And what is your attitude towards others?
You know, Masechaba, if ever that million was my million, I think I would have been. But now it's the companies. Rona, we don't know the difference, how to separate yourself from the company. Or there's your money, there's the company's money. And you need to be able to, to sustain what you're doing for you to actually be ahead in life. And I think, what I started thinking, this is my money, it's not the company's money. And obviously you want to buy cars, you want to buy fashionable,
you want
clothes.
flash.
You want to be seen in fashionable places with fashionable people drinking fashionable things. And in the midst of that, you start becoming drunk off the hype that is around you, and you forget to sustain what you're doing. You forget to sustain the very same thing that put that money into your own pocket. And obviously, you're bound to fall, and you know what, I'm not gonna lie, I fell, like dismally so, and now having to be in the township back again, and the neighbors, they start talking, right? And they start or you see you'll end up like him. Yeah. And I always say the measure of a man is not how many times you fall, it's whenever you fall, how many times do you get up.
Absolutely.
And I needed to reinvent myself, and now I was smarter, now I was strong. And I realized, these materialistic things, yes, it's nice to have, but they don't define you. And one thing that Zibusiso said to me, he says, one thing you need to know, having money, you just have more privileges than the next person, but there's nothing special about you.
So he grounded you. He was your...
He was my.
He was your base. He was your
my
rock.
Base, yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's why I always be grateful to the men, because I do what I do today, and I will open up the doors that I open. I think he gave me that courage. He gave me that strength. I mean, he even always emphasized the fact that you can do better than me. You can do better than me. And eventually, I started doing better than him, and I started doing with him, and to this day, I mean, the guy is doing well. He's doing very, very well for himself, and I'll always be grateful to the man.
Tell us about the first annual Game Changing Entrepreneurs event. Clearly, you had Sibusiso, and you now want to be a Sibusiso to others.
Yes.
To be a bigger Sibusiso, because the motivational speaking, already you're a mentor to many, many people.
No, I am a mentor to many people. What I started doing is that, for instance, being in the entrepreneurial space, I start getting exposed to Nigerian entrepreneurs. I start getting exposed to Kenyan entrepreneurs. I realized that there's a different ball game out there. I mean, for instance, Rona, we are afraid to even cross border, go to Botswana, cross border, go to Swaziland, or do whatever. So, and what happened is that you start, for instance, living within your limitations. And what now I started doing, I developed a brand called the 360 capability, that I saw my life transform 360 degrees. I saw, for instance, my business transform 360 degrees. For instance, this is an initiative that I felt, let's start this brand to actually encourage black entrepreneurs, to encourage black business, that you can actually transform your life 360 degrees, doesn't matter where you come from. And for that matter, we want to create other black millionaires to say, you know what, you can actually start a business that would grow. You can actually start a business that could actually employ people, and that's the initiative that we started. And what we decided this year, we said, you know what, we want to do an event called the Entrepreneurial Game Changer, where I want to bring in people that are changing the entrepreneurship landscape in the country. I mean, your Miss Putima Hanyele, the Shanduga CEO, Timothy Morris Webster, your Ezra Ndwane from Break Legacy, Tande Ganene from Bono Group. I started calling all these people that I met throughout my journey within the entrepreneurship space to say, guys, this is what I want to do. And they said, you know what, we support you all the way. bring in black people, bring in young people, and let's actually be the one, because we tend to glorify success, but we don't know behind every success there's a story. So this is an opportunity. I want them to actually share their stories. I want them to actually learn strategies on how to do it. Right now we start businesses with one goal. We want to make money. Whereas our fellow white brothers, they're starting business with strategy. They know, or should the business go down tomorrow, how do they come out of the situation? Right now we don't have strategy. Or should the business go down tomorrow, how would you come out of it?
We're talking to our mover and shaker. He is Teboho Mafodi, an entrepreneur. He is a motivational speaker. He is the owner of digital advertising company TM Group, and under TM Group there's also a couple other companies like public relations, events, television production, and property development. Like he said, diversify that portfolio. This is the inaugural game-changing entrepreneurs event is happening on the 20th of November.
Yes, because from the 14th to the 23rd, it's the Global Entrepreneurship Week. It's an event that has actually been celebrated internationally at about 122 cities. And we thought, you know what, let's take advantage of the Global Entrepreneurship Week. Let's bring in people on the 22nd of November at the Midrand Conference Center to actually be in a position for them to actually interact with the game changers and actually learn how things actually can be done. So, I mean, for instance, we're calling out on everyone. If ever you're running a business or you're thinking of even starting that business, this is an opportunity to come meet other people that are actually doing it, that have actually done it for themselves, to actually learn how is it or what is it that they're doing right.
And included in that lineup is Tim Teboho as well, who is the CEO of Skoko Resources, and Vincent Mapai, the corporate director at SAB Miller. So we are talking here about the cream of the crop when it comes to entrepreneurs. And Timothy Webster, a good friend, will be talking about creative strategy and brand leadership. So it's going to really be an informative day. What is the website if people would like more information?
Okay, for more information, people should go to www.360capability.co.za. 360 is a numeric 360.co.za, or they could even send an email to actually register. We'd prefer, because we were only targeting 200 entrepreneurs. So we want, because obviously the venue, we can actually take up more. They could actually send an email to events@360capability.co.za, events@360capability.co.za. So, or else they could even phone our office. The number is 011-366-2415, 011-366-2415, or even probably the events organizer, the lady that's handling this from our office. Her name is Neo. Her number is 074-361-8854, 074-361-8854.
The website is 360capability.co.za.
Yes.
The website is 360capability.co.za, or you can just email events@360capability.co.za and ask for information about this event, or call them on Johannesburg 366-2415. That's Johannesburg 366-2415. And Dada Mafodi, it's been an amazing journey that we could remain on to hear more, but unfortunately time is not on our side. We thank you so much for coming through, and best of luck with the inaugural game-changing entrepreneurs event.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate your time, and we are so inspired by this young man's story. I mean, you should see him. He looks like he's 18 years old. He's absolutely amazing. And as he talks about business and entrepreneurship and development, you see his whole face light up. And that's truly, these are the people that will be changing our world for the better. And we are truly blessed to have young entrepreneurs like Teboho Mafodi. Thank you very, very much for your time.
No, thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.